Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to your Wednesday Talking Town Matchday preview show. But if you're new to the channel, the Wednesday show, where it normally looks ahead after a Tuesday night game, we've, of course, got to reflect one final time on what, in the end, was a positive 3 points away from home against a nitty-gritty, I want to say dirty, but I don't, side, Burton Albion. They do what they have to do, and they do it fairly effectively. And if it wasn't for a Christian Walton, I did know at the time last night on the post-game show, but if it wasn't for a Christian Walton acrobatic save, they would have gone 1-0 up inside 4 minutes. So again, not only was he good last night, he was Superman. A few players put the shift in terms of, really stepping forward. And I'm going to bring a few players out tonight and see what the contributors make of it. Before we go any further, though, we had an absolute whopping over 400 watching us live on our match reaction show last night. Over 2,000 views already. Just huge numbers. And they say positivity doesn't draw numbers. Well, you're proving them wrong there. And I absolutely salute you and thank you for choosing Talking Town. It was a great show last night. Multiple people coming on. I sat down. I thought we'll do 20-25 minutes. And we busted out nearly an hour or just over an hour's worth of content. There is a prediction league. There's not yet a link for the new week yet. And there is a league table. But I refuse to show that league table because it has me beneath Matt Phillips. But both on 3 points, I'm just not quite sure how Martin Lambert is alphabetically not before Matt Phillips. So until they correct this change, outrage, you're not going to see the prediction league table. You have to wait for that. But there is a link that will be coming soon. Keep your eyes peeled. You are welcome to join at any moment in time. The leading player has 10 points, and somebody does have 0, but we won't mention them. And it's not Rich, because if it was, I certainly would have mentioned him. Good evening, Adi. Lloyd, welcome in. Jason, welcome in. Lots of people. George Nunn, welcome in. Doing multiple things at multiple times. Jason Clayton, some great clips from last night's game on social media. Andy, one of our YouTube members, last night, never seen so many nominations for man of the match, but Mr. Walton got my vote. Certainly did. Rob Holmes, evening all. Did anyone see the early save from Walton on social media? Yes, that's exactly what I was just talking about, Rob. An absolute amazing save. I didn't know at the time. I thought that a defender had nicked in, but he's just amazing to get off the floor as quickly as he did to get a hand up and win us the game, both in that moment and a bit later on in the show. There will be a live link incoming in just a moment, but first of all, just welcoming my first contributor. This lady had a hen do on a Friday, so she's going to be absolutely top form tonight. Right? No filter, Yorkshire V Vicky Henderson.
With hindsight, I wish I'd joined you in the Jaeger Bombs because that match was shit.
Join me in the Jaeger Bombs. You didn't, but I hear a little story of you and Tequila coming out Friday night. How are you feeling for what? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days on. How are you feeling? Surely top.
You might need some subtitles.
Okay, all right. So you're not feeling too well still?
No, I'm feeling fine. It's just my voice. It's just yeah, it's gone. I'm gonna, well, like I said to you earlier, I'm gonna make some extra money doing some extra phone work.
Some extra phone work, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wait long enough, there'll be a bot in the chat that tells you the single is probably lonely and in your area, so you could probably pick up some work on that link. How are you, Vicky? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm all right. Honestly, I'm fine. It is just my voice.
Good. How was the hen do then on the Friday 5 days ago?
It was really good. Yeah, the sun was shining. It was beautiful weather. We had a hot tub, and then we all got dressed up and went out. It was really good. Really good.
I guess you got dressed up, went in the hot tub. I thought the tequila was strong if you got dressed up to go back in the hot tub. Look, what are your thoughts on the season so far, Vic? Because you were at the first game. Obviously, you've seen the subsequent games. What are your early thoughts on the new campaign, and just how important is the positivity coming through the internet and the social media clips, as was mentioned in the chat, for a fan like you that is a little bit way out of Ipswich?
It's good. I like the positivity. Makes such a change, doesn't it, with our club, because we're normally all doom and gloom, and that's me included. But Yeah, I think it's really good. And I think we've started really well. Lots and lots of positives to take from it. It was a scrappy win last night, but I'll take it every day of the week. When the trouble is with us fans, well, certainly with me, I want to win like 6-0 every single week. But we're not, are we? So if we scrape out 1-0 victories against sides that are really putting in the time and the effort and playing football with us, I don't mind. Let's bring it on. It's all
Absolutely. It's all the time and effort. Before I go ahead and bring in our second contributor, you're active on our Discord for Talking Town Ultras and Fifth Stand TT members. There had been a takeaway conversation recently, started by me, and the exuberant prices of certain places. What is your favourite takeaway when you've, woken up after the tequila haze has worn off? What do you reach for, Vic? Not the paracetamol and water. That's a given. What food do you reach for?
Well, I'm not a pizza fan, actually, so that can get in the bin for me. I think I'd go for either Thai or Chinese.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, pizza.
Yeah.
I looked at certain places last night. 2 pizzas, 22 quid. I thought, flipping heck. Need a second mortgage for 2 pizzas these days. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm old enough to remember. Here he goes. He gets his old man hat out. But if you want to join the fantastic debate like that, then become a YouTube member today or a Fifth Stander on Ko-Fi. Just what would you want more from life than to discuss the exuberant rate of pizzas or a Chinese and a Thai meal? There we go. Job done. Plug done. Or, of course, you can buy this lovely pajama top designed by the next man by going to our Talking Town store, shop.talkingtown.co.uk. In fact, let's get the designer in. He can tell you all about how he came up with this beautiful design. I can't find his intro. I'm so excited about the design. So, George, here he is. George, how did you come up with such an
How did I come up with putting a giant
top?
Shit. Do you know what? Just a moment of genius, I guess.
I've just realised why I can't find your intro. It's Wednesday, not Monday. You're not on my Wednesday tab of contributors. You're in uncharted waters, George. How does it feel to be on Wednesday?
I was on last Wednesday.
Were you? Were you really?
I think
so.
In the
works.
I feel like I'm on all the time at the moment.
I am. Well, you know,
just jibbed out on me.
Many would complain, but not me, George. It's always a pleasure to hear your lovely voice and get your ITFC opinions. You've been to both home games, but just how good was last night from your perspective? Because for me, it was one of my most favourite performances and wins in a long time.
Yeah, so I cards on the table. I didn't watch it live. But
what sort of fan are you?
You what?
What sort of fan are you?
Oh, well, no. Plastic doesn't even begin to describe it.
More plastic than my credit card.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I'm sorry, I wasn't there. I didn't watch it. But from the highlights I've watched, I know where you're coming from. It's one of those games that last season and probably previous seasons we wouldn't have won. So, yeah, it's great to be able to put in, again, from the highlights alone and what I've read, not the finest performance we've ever put in as a team, and it looked a little bit like they probably should have scored from what I saw, but you know, we kept them at bay and one way or another, and managed to eke out a really what will I think turn out to be a really valuable win. So yeah, it's a cracking effort.
Absolutely cracking effort. Prediction League link is now in the chat. There you go. Get on it, ladies and gentlemen. A cracking effort, says George Vicky. It was my favourite primarily for the way we showed resilience, showed character, ground it out, fought hard, came back from adversity at times. You know, just really delivered a great performance. It's okay winning well on Saturday like we did, but yesterday for me was one of my favourites. How do you feel in this Wednesday evening?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly didn't give up. Whereas I kind of had thoughts about the halfway mark that it would be another Accrington. It was not cold, but it was rainy and drizzly and not a very nice place to really play football, was it? So I kind of thought that it's going to end up like Accrington and we're going to lose. First half was a bit shocking, wasn't it? We were all over the place, and yeah, I had bad feeling going into the second half. But you know what? We ground it out, didn't we? We stuck to it, and and you can't fault the lads for that.
No, you absolutely can't fault the lads for that. But moving it on a little bit, I'll drop the link into the chat. They come on, have your say. Whoever was there, wasn't there, saw it, what you didn't see, what you particularly loved from last night. But one of the things that did happen last night was Big Fred one-on-one with a goalkeeper. Terrible first touch, but he rescues it enough for me that you've got to take your hat off and say well played to their goalkeeper, who stands up such a long time that it gives Big Fred absolutely nothing to aim for. But that was the chance he's been craving, wasn't it, George? That's the one to get yourself off the mark, up and running. Here we go. And it just didn't happen for him.
Yeah, I bet he bloody hates it, because it's all we heard, wasn't it, from Rotherham fans, that he's no good at one-on-ones. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think he did pretty much everything right apart from that final touch. But the keeper, after I thought making the wrong decision, I was surprised that he didn't just come and put his foot through it, because it looked like a relatively fair 60-40 in his favour from the starting positions, I thought. But I might have been wrong from the camera angle I saw. But yeah, I thought he did pretty well, really, considering he had his back to the depot for some of the advancement. But yeah, it will come for Freddie. You know, we've said I think we said last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. We know that he can score goals. He just needs to find the touch, and I'm sure it will come before too long. Hopefully it will come in time to give McKenna a headache as if and when our new striker comes in.
A good pun there. Needs to find the touch, because the first touch was, as Rob Holmes says, poor. He did seem to panic, says Stephen. That miss won't help his confidence, Vicky. And the transfer saga rumbling around the club, which we'll get to before we bring in two people that were at the game last night to have their say live on the show. The transfer saga around that position isn't also going to help him either. And, you know, George Hurst, we believe, is going to sign a new contract, then possibly be loaned to the Championship. The other names mentioned, Jerry Yates has started all 4 games for Blackpool, I believe. Macaulay Bonne left out of yesterday's squad. Those are the names. That was the miss. That's the player we've got. Where are you on the saga? Are you stick, Jacko and Ladapo? Are you bring in? And if you are bringing in, which of the names most excites you?
I definitely think we need another striker. Yeah, Ladapo's has shown a little bit of what he could do. But to be honest, I think that Bonne would have put that one away had we got him. And I think he would have done better. Maybe together they could create something more. But if that was Bonne last season, we would have been... You know, we did almost hang him out to dry, didn't we? Second half of the season, he can't score, yada, yada, yada. But we seem to be giving all the excuses to Ladapo. He should have put that one away last night. Absolutely.
In early doors, you give that those early graces, George, to the new guy. Mike D's not happy, the B word already. But those are the strikers listed. They're the ones that we've read in the press, and of course, it could be somebody else. It could be player Z that nobody was being linked with. But those are the names. So that's what you kind of got to go with, unless you start playing fantasy football with it. What excites you out of the group that you might want to bring it in?
It's difficult, isn't it? I don't think any of them that feel realistic at this point. But
do you think Jerry Yates would step down, having started all 4 for Blackpool? It's a bit. That'd be a big transition from being number 1 to being a League One.
He and Hurst both seem out there at the moment in terms of options. Yates because he is starting for Blackpool, as you say. So that seems unlikely. Hurst has felt unlikely for a couple or 3 weeks now, really, because it's just rumbled on. And I know we heard a lot of they want to have a look at him. He had a bit of a niggle, and now apparently he's going to sign a new contract, and that's more than likely him out. If we sign a new striker, I would love for the new striker to be a permanent signing. I don't want someone that we're going to have to give back at the end of the season, particularly. Not that would be the end of the world, but I'd like us to show a bit of nous and sign ourselves a permanent striker. But I am worried, and I've said this to you, that whoever the striker is, and I suspect George Hurst was the one that we had our eyes on, is going to be this year's Matt Crooks. And I would not be unhappy with Macaulay Bonne coming in, but he wouldn't be. I feel like we probably could have got Macaulay Bonne day one of the transfer window if we really wanted Macaulay Bonne this summer. So no one is going to convince me that he was our first choice striker, and I don't mean anything by that. I think I worry that our focus has been a little myopic over the summer if we've got to this point and we're going from Hurst to Macaulay Bonne.
The thing is, though, if we're running out of options, we kind of need somebody. Somebody's better than nobody. And therefore, for me, if Bond's kind of in the last option basket, I'd still take him because he's still got, 11 or so goals last season.
Yeah,
100%. And just to clarify, I it wouldn't surprise me at all if, like you said, Martin, we suddenly sign someone who is completely out of left field, and I am completely proven wrong, because that's what we've been doing. We've been signing players that have taken us by surprise, which is great, and let's keep doing that. But strikers are one of those things, right? Unless they're coming from abroad, that you more or less most of the realistic options will have been unearthed at some point over the summer.
Well, yeah, I do think when you're paying a fee for anybody, generally it leaks out a lot sooner, earlier, or quicker, or any other way you want to put it in there, than a free transfer, because the selling club normally wants to alert other clubs into a bidding frenzy to up the price, up the ante, get as much as we possibly can. When it's a free transfer, that's all agent based, that's all in between clubs and agents, and a lot of it probably down to relationships. Do you know agent A? Yeah. Are you on good terms with agent A? Can you get a deal over over a lovely Thai meal, as Vicky would have had after that several tequilas? That said, Ashton's a shrewd operator. Wouldn't be surprised to see George Hurst still in a Town shirt in some way, shape, or form. Who knows? But if we do sign Hurst, we have got that song already made for him, George, because he was the one. So, you could just take a bit of Atomic Kitten and apply it to George Hurst. George Hurst, you're the one.
There's no reason why we couldn't have Hurst loaned to us. You're saying it'd be loaned to a championship side, but it's a side that's paying the money at the end of the day. So there's no reason why we couldn't have him. But it's a saga that I just want it to get put to bed quite quickly, because it's been rumbling on all summer. And like I say, I just would rather have somebody rather than nobody.
No, that's absolutely fair enough. Back to last night, Ladapo's missed, but worked hard. In fact, if you watch Marcus Harness's goal, Freddie Ladapo, for me, shows what he brings to this football team. His movement draws two Burton centre halves with him, leaves Marcus Harness with just the grace of the Pirelli Stadium, takes a touch, turns, and finds his spot. That's what Ladapo can bring. How did you see it last night from your wonderful spot, you little celebrity there? Town in 5.
Good evening, folks. Just going back to Macaulay Bonne. So George was saying he wants a permanent striker. Well, Bonne wouldn't be your permanent striker, George, because he's not good enough for the Championship. And if we want to go to the Championship, why would you sign him? And if he wasn't a Town fan, right? If he wasn't a Town fan, no one would want him back at the club after going 1 goal in 30 games. If it was anybody else, there wouldn't be the talk about Macaulay Bonne, Martin. There wouldn't.
I disagree.
I disagree, and I disagree because if we'd had this platform under Mick when we told Reg thanks but no thanks, and we got to this point of the window like we did, there would have been calls for, Reg is still available, he's still on a free. We could do worse than getting him back. I think there would. I think there's that natural player from last year still available.
If he'd have said it in October to Town fans, would you sign Macaulay Bonne? Everyone would have said yes, because he started like a house on fire. The second half of the season, 1 goal in 30 games, no one's going to touch him. He didn't hardly play under McKenna. He hardly played under McKenna.
Season, didn't he?
Then again,
we know he had stuff going on in the background.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that, John.
That doesn't take all of his skill away, and he just lost, for whatever reason, he lost his touch. But we saw enough of him in the first half of last season that I wouldn't. Let's not forget, we're all clamouring over George Hurst, who I know is young, but he had one decent half season for Pompey, but he didn't pull up any trees prior to that.
Fair enough.
And we've got Ladapo, who's yet to score.
Exactly. Moving on to Big Freddie. 20 euros from David. David, we love you lots very, very much. Thank you. Cruncher, how did Big Freddie perform? Did get the goal, deserved to, should have done, but how did he do it for you last night?
I thought he'd done all right. Should have scored. Awful touch, Martin.
He does recover it though, and the keeper does well.
Yeah, not really, because the touch takes him too wide. If he takes that first touch, the keeper's out of his goal. He could have just lifted it over his head. As soon as he took that bad touch, the chance had gone because the space disappeared. The goalkeeper had come out and he'd done quite well. He had a good chance in the first half, didn't he, when he just slotted it wide? I think it was Luco played a really good ball through. But at the minute, listen, we're 4 games in, we've got 10 points. No strikers have scored a goal, so it's not really an issue at the minute. If it gets to 10 games, Martin, he hasn't scored, it'll be an issue then. And for his self-confidence, he'll be sitting on that bus last night. He'll be happy that the team's won, but it's another game that he hasn't scored. And he's a striker, and he's judged on scoring goals, and he hasn't scored in 4 games. But I think his all-round play's been good. He just needs one of them ones that just ricochets off him in the 6-yard box, and it gets him off and running. But hopefully it'll be Saturday when we're at Shrewsbury. But that'll be another tough game, Martin, because they drew with Derby last night. So anyone expecting us just to go up there and roll them over, that we thought we would do last night at Burton, it's not going to happen.
Rich, have the same issue, or their fans are having the same conversation about Collins, or is it Chester? One of the two.
James Collins, yeah.
They
got both in there. They're both there, yeah. James Collins is a striker.
Hasn't scored yet, and they're having the exact same conversation. I listened to their sports scene talking yesterday night, and they were having the exact same conversations about their strikers. Not scored yet, 0-0 Shrewsbury. So it's not just ourselves that have that chat. With that in mind, is that still 0-0 a good result for Shrewsbury? I suppose it is a good result for Shrewsbury. Anyway, you shake it, isn't it?
Possibly. They're the home team. They'll want to win. It's a draw. But they've got some good signings. Cottrell's a good manager. I think they signed Dunkley. They've got a couple of ex-Coventry players, Martin. So it'll be a tough game. I mean, I'll take a point now. If you said, give me a point, I'll be happy with that. 4 points from 2 games on the road, and then go and win your home game against Barnsley. That's 7 points, 14 points from 6 games, and everyone's happy. We're not going to win every single game, Martin.
No, but I'd rather get beat by a heavy team than a team that hasn't touched the plough since Paul Hurst was in charge.
True. I don't doubt that, but I don't think it'd be an easy game. And we need to start better than we did last night, because it wasn't 4 minutes. It was 1 minute, Martin. We could have been 1-0 down. You should have spoke to me and Colin. We were right behind that, literally right behind it. Christian Walton, that was an unbelievable reaction, because the first one's hit the bar, he's on the floor.
Yes,
mate, he thinks he's just got he's going to head it into an empty net, and that hand literally comes from nowhere and claws it away. I did say when he signed, he'll win us probably 15 points. I did say he'd be player of the year. Callie laughed at me. He said, well, if your goalkeeper gets player of the year, you're not going to have a good season. Well, why? Because he's already saved us at Forest Green, and he saved us last night there, Martin. So we've got 2 wins on the road that were probably a lot of it down to your goalkeeper.
Well, certainly a lot of it, George, because he's pulled you out of the fire in the first 3 minutes of the game. If they scored there, it could have been a totally different night.
Yeah, and let's not pretend it was the only decent save he made all evening as well. Like he was, I think based on the highlights that I've seen, he looked like he was up there for man of the match for sure, and certainly kept us in it. And like I say, it looked unfathomable that they wouldn't have scored with the opportunities they had. So, I think there's every possibility that he's going to be player of the season. Wasn't Bart our player of the season? Not that
3 years in a row.
This proves Callie's point, because we were pretty crap back then. But I think there's every reason why a goalkeeper after a decent season should or shouldn't be. But
and he's not as good as Bart. He's not as good as Bart yet, Martin. Whatever anybody says, right? Bart's done it in the Championship. He's still doing it in the Championship. He's won Player of the Year twice for Millwall in the Championship. 5-time Player of the Year, Martin, with Town and Millwall. Christian Walton, excellent goalkeeper. I'm not saying he's not. He's improved massively with his feet since he came in. I think we spoke about it on the show a few times last season. That's down to Rennie Gilmartin. He's got that relationship he had. Obviously, he come from Plymouth. That's where Walton come from, So got that relationship. When it goes back to him now with his feet, he can pass it out. He pinged some really good balls last night. But, yeah, I'm not saying yet that he's in Bart's class. He could be. In 2 or 3 years' time, we could have that conversation when we're playing in the Premier League.
I said last night on the show, obviously, you know how much of a big Bart fan I am. It's the league status that really hampers that conversation. Bart is a championship goalkeeper. Until Christian Walton becomes one, you can't really have it. So I think he will be one day seen as good as, if not better. Certainly got a lot of years left to still be.
I was going to say, this is his first full season with us, right?
Really good goalkeeper.
And regardless of the league that we're in, I suspect if he stays with us for as long as Bart did, he will just get better and better based on what we've seen so far.
How was the feeling on the concourse, Crunch? Obviously, you knew a little bit before, but when the news Wes Burns wouldn't be in the side, not only the starting 11, but the whole match day squad, what was the feeling on the concourse?
It was funny because I see it Saturday when he came off from the warm-up, he's holding his groin. I'm thinking, that don't look good. So he's obviously done that. He'd done it in training, and then he felt it a little bit there. So, listen, I said to Colin at the time, and I spoke to Alex Griffin, Martin, you can't just rely on Wes being there every single week. It's a squad game. It's going to be 18, 20-odd players that get us out of this league. And Wes Burns had a few injury problems last year, and I think Paul Cook, that probably was a nail in his coffin, wasn't it, when he went out the side, and we really struggled down that side. But this season, I think we've got a good squad. It showed last night, right? I don't know if the fisherman's in the chat. He'll be binning him off. Caden Jackson, right? He's a credit to himself, Martin. He's playing literally right wing back sometimes.
Yeah.
And Michael just judged him saying, he didn't score. He brings so much more to the team, last night. I thought first off he struggled a little bit, but his work rate was an absolute credit to himself, and the second half, he improved. He came into the game. Then he went into the middle when Ladapo went off. But I thought his all-round game was excellent. It probably deserved the goal, Martin, I thought, second half. And it's not just about players like Caden, he should be scoring goals. No, he's putting in that effort. And he knows he's probably not going to play every week, right? He signed that new 2-year contract. He's probably going to think, I'm probably going to be a bit part player. But it's important, though, when these players come in, that they show that they're good enough. And I thought Jackson, he's given the manager probably a headache for Saturday. Personally, if it was me, when the team was named last night, I'd have probably played Kyle Edwards out there. KVY come on. Kane Vincent-Young come on, Martin, second half, went out there. I thought he played well. He gives the manager a headache for Saturday. So we've got some options, going forward. And like you said, you were a little bit worried, weren't you, after, I think, Saturday when you were talking about the squad depth.
I was.
But this is what we're going to be finding out. And it's little things like this where it seems to me it's going to be totally different than last season. I know we're only 4 games in and we're not getting carried away. I know Colin might be, George, because he says we're going to win the league, but he's like that anyway. But I just think this is where it's showing it's different. Last night, that game, last season, Martin, we'd have lost that game, especially if Paul Cook was manager. Well, we went to Burton, didn't we, and lost 2-1.
We did.
We had little bits. Look, we did have a bit of luck last night. The back pass from Wolfenden, again, he switches off. Mate, he should have scored, the number 9. I thought he was excellent, their striker. He got man of the match. But Walton saved it. But I was speaking to, I went around after the game, I was speaking to Sam Morsey, and I was talking about Keogh because he was there. We see him. And he said, he's a really good player. And I said to him, now, a lot of people are saying, he's 36, he's old, right? He's played 700 career games. Like I said last week when we done the transfer show, he played 30 games last season. That was to me last night. I think it was Lee Anderson said, our centre halves, we haven't really got anyone who's commanding in the air, have we? You look at that first 10 minutes, Martin, they had 2 throw-ins, 2 long throw-ins and had a corner. Who won the first header? A Burton player.
No, they did, yeah.
So,
or Greg Lee's head went the wrong direction for the first 4 minutes. That was the issue there.
I think somewhere Keogh will come in the team. Wolfie, he's a good player. I'm not saying he isn't. I thought he probably played the better out of the 2. I thought Edmondson first half, Martin, was all over the shop. I really did. I thought that was as poor as I've seen him play for quite a long time. And they know that you've got Cameron Burgess on the bench. You've got Keogh waiting in the wings. These players have got to keep up their standards. We might be winning, but it doesn't mean that we can't change the team. So it'll be interesting It'll be interesting when Keogh comes in. He'll probably look. His first game's going to probably be Northampton. I thought he'd play him in the Papa John's game to see what he's like because he's probably not played a lot of football. But I think sooner or later he will come into the team, and I think when he comes into the team, he'll show that experience. You know, he's a good talker. That's obviously why he's there last night, Martin. He's made the trip. You know, he's in the dressing room. He's around the lads. You've
got to immerse yourself into that culture. I'll have to bow to your knowledge on Keogh because I don't know much about him. I wouldn't have put him in that bracket of a strong in the air, real tough player that would have dealt with the physicality, but he may well be. I just may not know the player inside and out the way that yourself does there. Obviously, you mentioned Shrewsbury win a tough game and you take a draw. Do you really mean that? Or is that just the sitting on the fence and talking?
I want to win. Now, I said 4 points Sunday out of 2, and now we've got 3. Look, you want that 3, but it was last night, right? That terrace at the end was absolutely bouncing. The drum was there, and it's like, we're onto something here. We just need to keep that momentum going, Martin. And I think we can beat Shrewsbury. I'm not saying we can't go there and win, but I just think it'll be a very tough game. And if we come away with a point, would I be disappointed? Probably not. You know, it's 4 points from 2 away games. Win your home games, you know, and then win the odd game on the road. And look, we've come away so far. We played Forest Green, a promoted team that last year we couldn't bloody buy a win. We've beaten them. We've gone to Burton, who turned us over. We've beaten them. Who I thought last night, Burton, look, not got a win so far. They were credit to the manager, but you've only got to look, Nunny and Vic, the bloody crowd there last night. It was 3,600 and there's nearly 1,600 Town fans there. I mean, it shows you what level we are at the minute, and we fucking need to just get out of this league.
Well, you don't do that by getting points at Shrewsbury. You get 3 at Shrewsbury. That's all I'm going to say, Crunch. I appreciate
I'll see you Friday.
You certainly will. See you Friday. Mentioned quite a bit there, did our Cruncher. Vicky, competition for places was one of them. Obviously, Keogh still to come in. Don't know where he's going to feature. Other areas in the squad, you've got some real depth. Is that what's driving the strong performances from players like Jaley on Saturday, where Keogh arrives? You know, he has to really bring out the big guns again. You've got Wes Burns going down injured. Is our squad that much better than it was last year?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got more options, haven't we? And just going back to Keogh, I saw him play when he played Blackpool Leeds a few weeks ago, and you know, I think he looked all right. He looked all right for a championship side. So to have him in League One, I can only think of positives with that. So we have options. Totally agree with Rich that Edmondson didn't play well last night, and I don't think he's been exceptionally good since this season, really. Since he came back from injury, whatever injury that was, whether it's knocked his confidence. But again, we've got the options to mix and match. Not that I'm a fan of rotation or anything, but when needed, you can't just rely on the same set of people. You've got to have options.
Mix and match, different sets of games. We know McKenna likes that, George. Wes Burns going down injured. Could be a while, could be a short-term thing, but have we got, you know, how did we cope last night with him missing? Did we really miss Wes Burns, or do you feel Caden Jackson, as Rich did, came in and did just as well down that right? And would you go with Jackson again? Or, you know, you got Edwards, TJJ, KVY, multiple players. Who would you be going with if Wes can't make Saturday?
I mean, from what I'm hearing and what I read today, sounds like Jackson did a great job. So I think that's the point of this. Like we were saying with the cup game, these players should be coming in and being told, or thinking to themselves, put in a good performance and the shirt's yours for the next game if the same situation is around. Like, this isn't about edging Burns out of the squad, because I think most people of our players would edge him out if he was fit. But if he's not fit, then you want whoever comes in, if they put in a good showing, to know that they're going to get the opportunity again come the weekend. Now, if we're going to play the same formation and et cetera, then yeah, absolutely, I'd give Jackson the shot. But what Rich was saying and us talking about him playing out there on the right just proves how little depth we have up front. Right? I think Lee made a good point last night at the halftime show that I was watching back today. He said that he suspected that Ladapo was probably getting it 90 minutes because he couldn't think who was going to come on in his place. Now, from all accounts, he came off because he was absolutely spent. But we're just a bit thin up front. And yes, Jackson can play up there. And yes, occasionally it looks like he deserves his goal and sometimes he gets his goal. But he's such a good asset in terms of his diversity. But we just need someone to play up front. So, yeah, I'd have no qualms about putting Jackson out on the right again if he put in a good performance yesterday. But equally, no. I don't think I'd have any issues with KVY or Edwards playing out there. They were putting KVY through his paces before the game on Saturday, weren't they? When Wes obviously went off with a bit of a tightened groin. They kept KVY out and made him run down the pitch a couple of times to get warmer than he was expecting to, I think. But yeah, I've got no issue with it. I think we've got plenty of strength there. We should be able to cope without Burns for a couple of games if needs be.
If you wanted to go for more of a natural replacement than a striker playing out wide, who would your option be? Would it be KVY or would it be a Kyle Edwards coming up and trying to take hold of his opportunity that's been presented by an injury? Who would be the more natural outside of Jackson, who just did absolutely amazing last night? But if you want the more natural winger, who would it be?
Well, I don't see Jackson as a striker playing out wide. I don't think he's a natural striker playing out wide. I think he's probably playing in a more natural role for him, not necessarily right out, pushed out on the right, but his pace implies to me that he should be out there getting around players, getting around the back and crossing the ball in and doing that sort of Burns role if he can. I think if he wasn't available or for whatever reason you forced me into picking someone else, probably KVY.
Okay, all right. Ada says, best away atmosphere I've been to in a long time. Matt says, even our little seating area where I was bouncing. There's Andy Holt, apparently, chatting there again. Andy Holt, famous on this show. Well, certainly in our live chat. Anyway, Ashley Bell, KVY must be gutted. Burns injuring the striker gets the ball up instead of him to play right wing back. Wes touch and go for Saturday, says the Cruncher. Matthew Dow, to be fair for me, Wes would have struggled last night for me. Good game for him to miss, I think. Like Davis, he would have struggled. Clever management from McKenna. KVY all day for Ashley Bell. KVY or Edwards for Matt. Stephen Parry says Edwards for him. Louis, Jackson's good in the two up front. If not, he plays well out wide. Christopher Edwards, so far McKenna has made the right choices for starting 11 in the league. Hope he keeps it up. Chris Theobald, KVY offers more defensively, which again, he's probably more of the natural Burns-ish type player, I guess. Who would you go for before we bring in our next man to round up the Burton chat? Who would your choice be, Vicky? If it wasn't going to be if it wasn't Jackson, if you were going to, McKenna, mix and match and go for different players for different fixtures, and there was to be a different player on Saturday, who would it be for yourself?
Well, I think we should rest Wes. Because I don't think we should push him if he's not 100% fit. And I would probably put a Luca in his place. Personally, I think that him and Chaplin, I think, work really well. And Ladapo up front. That's what I'd do.
Oh, I like that. A Luca out wide. Good point to bring this man in to round up our Burton chat. Last 5 of the Burton chat. Colin, a Luca out wide on the right. You fancying a bit of that?
Well, I've been thinking about Saturday and what Rich has been saying about obviously Wes, being a bit touch and go for Saturday. I think I'd be going for how he played when he came on last night. I like Rich. I was really, really impressed with KVY last night. I thought he looked hungry. He looked fit. Got that extra. Yeah, he seemed to have got his mojo back a bit, and lovely to see that. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, obviously, I think the fantastic thing about our lovely young coach is that we can't prejudge his team lineups, and if we can't prejudge them as town fans, it's pretty hard for Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and that's a fantastic young coach. So I said after 2 games, remember, and. We trust him. We trust Kieran, and he'll get it right on Saturday, I'm sure. If Wes is fit, brilliant. But like I texted his mum today, I'd rather him miss out Saturday and be ready for Barnsley. Look, don't play if you're not 100% fit. It's not worth it, especially in this league. Get yourself nice and fit, and then you get on a roll again. Don't come back too early and miss 4 games. That's ridiculous. Just get yourself fit. If he's fit for Saturday, and then people in the medical room will know that, as you know, and they'll make the right decision like they made the right decision last night. But I've got to underline what Rich said.
Go on.
Sorry?
Go on. I was just going to ask you about decisions. Craig at Portsmouth, Aluko gave the ball away a lot last night, especially first half. He was one of the changes made by McKenna. So you're talking about changes there, etc. How did you see your man, Shawnee Aluko, who, by the way, the commentator was getting pelters today for calling him Shawnee, but his name is Shawnee Aluko. So he didn't say it wrong. If you're watching, he did that correctly. How did you see Aluko's first half, first 50 minutes?
Look, I see it as I see it, and he had an average game last night. Bless him. Yeah, like I said to Rich earlier in the day, he had a 6 out of 10 last night for me. You know, I know me football, and he weren't really at it last night. Bless him, but he did put a couple of nice balls through. But the one thing I would like to say, Gov, is I've got 1 or 2 things wrote down here.
Yeah, fire them away, mate. What
we've got to remember is we went 7 games last season without even winning a game. It was the 7th game that we won at Lincoln, which me and Rich were at that game, where Mark Ashton went absolutely ballistic. And quite rightly so, because, I mean, that was an awful position we was in. How many points we had after 6 games, I'm not really 100% sure. But we didn't have many, because we obviously hadn't won a game. But so we're in a far bit, and we played four games, and we've got 10 points. We're in a far better position. We're a million miles away from last season, and as regards the forward, or the forward, if that forward comes in, we can't prejudge, because we're not Mark Ashton, we're not Mr. O'Leary, and we're not privy to what's going on behind the scenes. And but I think it was you said it early on, Gavin. I agree with that. I think surprises are the best, because if you bring in, say, some cracking lad from the Premier League or something like that, who nobody kind of much heard about, but you know, all these coaches know where they are, and this and the other. And somebody comes like out of the blue, like something like Mark Asana, so to speak. It catches everybody unawares sometimes, and I think that's a good thing. Whether that'll happen or not, I'm not going to get involved with the Macaulay Bonne thing, because you know, I've got my opinions of it, you know, but you know, I'm going to leave them by the side at the moment. Whatever happens, and whoever pulls that blue shirt on, if somebody comes, they'll get the full support from me. But I've also got to underline what Rich was saying about. I've got another thing wrote down here. We had 44% of the attendance last night. That's unbelievable. 10 out of 10 for every fan. That includes, well, it doesn't include myself because I'm on holiday, as you know. But 10 out of 10 for every fan that attended yesterday, because we've all been there. You always have the half days off. You have some people have days off if they want to go on a razzle all day. And, you know, you get people like Alex and people like that who were there yesterday, have been there all day, had a few pints. I know you don't have to do that, but they do, and they have a good time. And a day can cost you easily over £100. And those fans are, do you know what? I've said it a million times. I'll tell you what, they're so top. They're tops, I tell you. And in there last night, I'll tell you what, Vicky, honestly, you'd have loved it in there last night. It was absolutely jumping. And I'll tell you what, you know, Kieran, that was lovely. I know it's a little bit of PR. They don't have to say it, but it's nice when they say it, because it's nice to have a little bit of praise from a manager. And and I think it was a bit of sincerity in there, and I think we did help. Well, I know we helped, you know, and I think we sold over 1,500. I think there's something like that again at the moment for Shrewsbury.
We're too big for this level. We're too big for this level. That's the issue. We're too big for this level, but it's a bastard to get out. That's the issue we're finding, Colin. And you know, Quan just said you think we're going to win the league. I'm not going to ask you that. It's 5 games in. What I'm going to ask you is, are we building something? Is there a collective momentum being built at this football club that you perhaps haven't seen in a while, and it's reminding you of certain eras? Is something brewing at Pullman Road, Colin?
Look, Rich touched on that earlier, and you know, we all love the club. So, some of us, I'm not talking about people on this channel right now. I'm talking about some people. They do. I'm going to say it because it's the truth. Some people love the club. Some people don't possibly love it as much as others, although they're big supporters, you know. I absolutely love this club, and so, as does Rich, as does thousands of others. And I really 100% agree with Rich. There's something going on here. I'll tell you, I haven't. My mojo is definitely back. I'll tell you what, I went through hell. I've been to hell and back with this football club. I know a lot of people say, "Well, but Colin, you've seen the good days." Yes, I have, but at the end of the day, I've still been, you know, I was probably in a way a little bit worse for me, because I think we've had this conversation before, Gov, because I've seen all the good days, the really good days, apart from obviously when we won the league. I was far too young then. I was 5. But because I've seen like the majority of the good days, the bad days have really, really been a dagger to the heart. And especially this last, say, 10 years, especially. I've nearly cried at times, I'll tell you what, because, and I've cried to myself this last few months, because look, I'm not going to get emotional tonight, I don't need to, but we have actually got our football club back. We've got it back. But what we must do now, what we must grasp now is, and we're all doing it, me and Rich have this conversation all the time. It's all about circumstances. I get that 100%. There's no such thing as 110%. I get it 100%. Some people can afford it. Some people can't. There is no middle ground. You either can or you can't. Now, if people can't afford it, Gov, George and Vic, that doesn't make them a lesser supporter. To me, not at all. I'm lucky. I've worked all my life. I've been lucky. I've always been in employment. I've not had hundreds of thousands of pounds a year job, but I've always worked, and you know, I always put a couple of bob away. And I've now got to the stage of my life. I've always been to football, but now it's even a little bit easier for me, you know. And there's probably quite a lot of people like David Brinkley, for a prime example, you know. He's worked all his life, that kind of thing, and he's getting reaping the benefits, you know. And so those people who say, you know, I wish I could go to Shrewsbury Saturday, but I can't afford it. That does not make you X or Z. That doesn't make you a lesser supporter to me. And well I know said. It doesn't to you people.
Absolutely well said. Well said. Just well said, Colin. Well said.
But we have to all pull that rope together like we're in a tug of war. We're winning that battle. We're absolutely winning that tug of war. Let's keep pulling and pulling. And Mark Ashton can join up on the back of the rope. Let's make sure that we finish where we should finish. Because I'll tell you what, with this squad, I'd say apart from maybe Sheffield Wednesday, I'm going to say the ones I think, Derby or Pompey, because Pompey has started really well. Exeter will fall away, in my opinion. But those two or three clubs, as long as we can keep just that little bit away from them, we'll be where we need to be at the end. I think, like I said, look, we said it before. Gov, you say it all the time. if only we had hindsight. I don't want bloody hindsight. I like, look, if I finish up with a cake in my face, I'll hold my hands up, you know. I said first or second at the start of the season. I am not. Obviously, I want first because I want that trophy in the cabinet, you know. But I said first or second at the start of the season. I've seen nothing to change my mind. And our coach. One of the most important things, Gov, George, and Vic, is our coach is getting better and better. And I'll tell you something else, and all this has got to be said. I'll tell you what, his interviews. And let's face it, he's got no piece of paper beside him. He's got not this, that, or the other. He's doing that like we know, Gov. When you do interviews, straight after, he's okay. He's been all right at the moment. He hasn't lost a game. But I'll tell you what, when you do interviews, like probably be 25 minutes, half an hour after the final whistle, people say things that they don't mean. I'll tell you what, I can hold my hand on my heart and say I don't think I've heard him say the wrong thing once since he's been Ipswich Town manager. He's an absolute credit, not only to the football club, more importantly, to himself.
Perfect. Colin, you've said it all tonight, and it's only, it's so true. It doesn't make you a fan, it doesn't make you any less of a fan for not attending away games. And our manager is an ascending manager, and hopefully our football team can keep pace with him. Colin, if you're not going to the game on Shrewsbury, you can join me pre-game and post-game for our Talking Town Match Live Match Reaction show. I know you'll be going, Colin. But before I do, give me a score prediction. Before I let you go, give me a score prediction for Saturday, Colin. Come on, lay it out there.
I'm not rich. I think it'll be close. But look, you know what I'm going to say. Well, you don't know what I'm going to say, but you kind of do.
2-1 down.
Do you know what? You've actually, I swear on my grandchildren's lives, you've actually read my mind. I was going to say 0-2, but I'm going to go 1-2 and hope I'm wrong, because I would love more than anything else. I'd love 3 points and another clean sheet. That would be fantastic. I think another thing I'd just like to say, not because he's unblocked Cruncher, but a big up to, I know I've said this once or twice this season, but Lee Evans. I'll tell you what, he's grasped the nettle, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
He was put in a slightly difficult position at the start of the season. Everybody was banging on about Don Ball. And don't get me wrong, great to have a player like him within the club. Yeah, fantastic. But I'll tell you what, at the moment, I'm not, to say for 1 minute he won't be back in the side, because I'm sure he will be in the side at some stage. But at this moment in time, I'll tell you, Lee Evans has got the shirt, and it's for Don Ball to nick it off him. It really is. It
certainly is. Colin, we love you and we appreciate you. Thank you ever so much for dropping by and giving us your 2 pennies worth. Look after yourself. Enjoy Saturday. There is the go. We've got lots of comments. I'm going to come to Shrewsbury in a moment, ask you a couple of questions. One is about Lee Evans. We've got Davis and others. But first of all, Matt Stannard, is anyone here not able to afford a ticket for Shrewsbury? If so, I'll buy an adult ticket with someone if they can get there. Matt Stannard, that is truly inspirational and so good of you. Take him up on the offer, somebody, please. Chris Theobald. I've seen good days even during the bad days, e.g. Atkinson's hat-trick against Middlesbrough during the John Duncan era. Cruncher's out of time. Andy Barrell, we need 20 points more than last in for automatic. Already have 7. Craig says, Colin is dead right. Me and my wife use all our work leave to watch Town rather than go away on holiday, but it doesn't make anyone less of a fan for not going to games. Craig from Portsmouth literally shows up every home game day before. Just immense, just absolutely immense support. And well done to yourself and your wife. Robert Wilson, Peterborough are going to go up there. Definitely got goals in their side. Chris, McKenna's interviews are very measured and informative, unlike the previous manager. Good point. I'll be coming to your scores in just a moment. First of all, I need to recharge my glass. Give me 20 seconds. Ipswich Buses, your local bus company. Don't get stuck in traffic. Ditch the car. Go green. Go contactless. Go Ipswich Buses. Fares available from £2.20 return, a fantastic price and a fantastic service. Ipswich Buses, proud to partner with Talking Town. Get on it. Right, before we go any further, if you want to join the faithful at home to Barnsley, Cruncher obviously has his ticket giveaway. Here are the two specifications you need to do to be in the draw. He has 22 people already in it. That's not a bad draw size if you fancy going to Barnsley, because 22, you'd be 23. You know, come on, 23. It's not too bad of a chance. So get active, get on it. There are the details on the screen. But moving to Shrewsbury at the weekend, another tough game as we've heard. Vic, this is your lineup. Talk me through it. You've brought Leif Davis into your 11. Why are you bringing Leif Davis back over Gregley? What are you seeing there, Vic?
I think he can. He runs around the pitch a little bit more, and we need that pace against Shrewsbury, I think. But just looking at that, I did say that I would change Burns for a Luco, just because I don't think Burns is going to be fit. And I also said to you that all the rest of them, I'd just have, if we could have like 9 Waltons, that would be perfect.
9 Waltons, that would... Well, it's nice to have a goalie, though, isn't it? That you don't have to worry about. This time last year, we didn't. And it's nice to have that assurance between the posts.
Yeah, definitely. Do you remember Holy? He just stood there,
I don't want to. I'm blah, la, 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 la. George, Leif Davis coming in. Obviously, one of the League One's most expensive defenders. McKenna said before Burton about a physical approach. Obviously, the long throws we saw. Is Shrewsbury a different proposition? Is it a Leif Davis return, or is it a Gregley double whammy?
I don't know. I got the impression that he was resting players that were just a bit knackered after the first few games, other than Wes, who obviously has a genuine injury. I need to sort this out, by the way, because you can't really read it. But I think my lineup is very similar to Vic's.
It is, and you've also gone Leif Davis. So you do think it was a rest, and it will be a Leif Davis return?
Yeah, I mean, this is our 11 from the first, couple of games, and I just think he made some pretty astute tactical decisions to give people rests yesterday, and I'm sure if Burns' injury was that bad, they wouldn't have allowed him to start on Saturday, I have to believe. So hopefully he hasn't aggravated it too much by playing on Saturday, but having a rest yesterday was very wise. He may very well get rested at the weekend, in which case obviously he'd come out. But I think this is our starting 11, and I would stick with it and probably go back to it. But I don't know the game plan for Saturday, so it may very well be that I'm
and that's a great one.
And that's a great thing, right? I think a few people have touched on it tonight. It's almost impossible to predict what McKenna's going to do. Not because he chops and changes it every week, but just because you just get the impression that he is astute enough that if he feels like he needs to make a couple of changes to turn Burton over in what he knows is going to be a tough game, then he'll do it. But that makes it really difficult to predict what he's going to do, which is great. So I've gone safe and gone back to what we had on Saturday.
You have, but I want a conversation about those tweaks, about those changes, about those game plans. You both kept Ladapo in, but George, you saw about resting players there. Would you, and I heard on the Derby phone in, they were talking about, taking their player out to give him a rest and then let him come back and it recharge his batteries and it may get him going. So I'll borrow that person's, whoever that gentleman or lady's thinking was, and I'll use it for here. Would you be tempted to possibly rest Big Freddie, bring in a Caden if you haven't both got him in your 11 and hope that the rest on the sideline for 90 recharges the batteries, or would you think that would hurt more than help?
Only if he needs a rest. I wouldn't drop him because he's not scoring goals, if that's what you're talking about. Resting him because that's dropping him. I think a goal, like I said earlier, I think the goals will come for Freddie. There's nothing to suggest that they won't. So I wouldn't, and again, nothing against Caden, but I think just stick with that team unless the players need the rest, which last night it sounds like they did. Maybe that was just, Kieran being coy about it. But if he's got some grand plan, then great. But for me at the moment, that 11, and coming back to Davis, Davis, he's just, I know he's only had a handful of games, but he's grown into it so much since his first game, where he made a little mistake for the penalty and looked a little bit. League One's tough on the best of players physically, I think, and he looked a little sort of shell shocked by it and potentially still a little jet lagged. But I thought on Saturday he looked exceptional. You could really see what we've spent the money on.
Yeah. Okay. So you wouldn't be tempted a little bit, unless there was a massive glaring issue that McKenna and Pert had seen in the Shrewsbury backline that might suit Jack.
Exactly. Yeah. Unless there's a tactical reason to, then yeah, I'd stick with that.
But all things can. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Good answer. I love it. Richard Keogh, Vicky. Lots of chat on him tonight. Obviously brought him in, not yet featured. Edmondson had a shaky game according to the Crunch, Goat, etc. Any you haven't done so on your team. I'll put it on the screen again. But so any temptation sitting here tonight, an hour after you made this team, that you would possibly look to maybe bring in, if he's ready, a Keogh for one of the three?
No, I'd put him on the bench so that it's another option for us. Definitely put him on the bench. But even though Edmondson and Wolfie, sometimes they look a little bit shaky, we haven't let that many goals in, touch wood. So you've got to say that we are doing all right. Yes, okay. Last night there was some dodgy passes going on, and especially through in the penalty area. But I think they're doing all right. So I'd have Keogh on the bench, but I wouldn't necessarily start him.
I think you're right, Vicky. I think that's the only position. I think we talked about it on Friday, maybe last Wednesday, that is close to someone being dropped is just Edmondson and Wolfie. Both look like they've got a mistake in them at the moment, and it's only a matter of time before one of those mistakes costs us not just a goal but a result. And that's tricky to just sort of say, look, drop them because. But with Keogh coming in and looking probably the old wise head in the centre of defence, would he potentially shore us up back there and stop at least 50% of those silly little mistakes? Who knows? But they need to cut them out. I suspect they're being told.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll be showing clips after clip after clip. I think at one instance during the game itself, I remember hearing Ian Westlake say that, we played it out from the back, and I think McKenna on the sidelines, or maybe even Westlake himself, felt we shouldn't be playing there. It should have been a way. You don't give a hospital pass inside that area, and they'll be shown that today, tomorrow, etc. This is where you can play, this is where you can't play. Be brave, but don't be stupid. And at times last night, Marcus Harness's back passes won. We were stupid, not brave. But that
was a cracking pass. That was a
fucking brilliant pass in the wrong direction, Marcus. But he made up for it. Obviously, later on in the game. Talking to players, Lee Evans, George. Before we come to score predictions, you're not being high on him, but are we seeing the resurgence and the appearance and the domination that Dominic Ball? All right, he's not fit at the moment, we believe. He may not be fit enough for Saturday, but are we seeing his presence in the squad and biting at the heels, knowing you've got that coming? I hope so.
I genuinely hope so. Like he's been loads better the last couple of games, particularly.
Let me just give you some stats. First 5, 1.3 key passes, obviously 1 goal, 87% pass completion rate, 75% in the opposition half. He has been, for me, last 2 games particularly, phenomenal. Yeah. How have you seen it?
Yeah, no, similar, to be honest with you. We need to find someone who's going to take corners, though, because I don't want to just be the down on Lee Evans guy, because I have no reason to be right now.
That's fair criticism. That's fair criticism.
He's not a set piece taker, or at least a corner taker, and the fact that we're persevering with him feels a bit mean at this point. Like, I suspect he's not. It's not like he's not practicing them on the training pitch, and unless there's just something going on training pitch where he's spectacular at them and he just can't manage it on game day, which seems unlikely. But we just need to just give him a break and let someone.
Not at the rate he continuously messes them up. You wouldn't be that good Monday to Friday.
It's just really frustrating, and I fully hands up, and as I did last season when he had his one game and scored his hat trick, like hands up when he's good he looks good. And if he can be consistently good, and this is what I've always said, if he can be as consistently good across a whole game as he shows in patches in games, then we've got a player. And that's excellent.
We had 3 consecutive corners last night, and 2 of them were exactly the same. Literally, they were placed the same. It was the same height. It was, you need to be mixing that up, because otherwise the teams read you, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was one on Saturday where we tried one of our clever ones, and it just went horrifically wrong in front of the North Stand. Like it was so bad. God.
And then Aluko had one on the other side and overhit it. I do believe I am the same as yourselves here. George and Vicky, that you've got 10 other players on that football field. You're telling me there's not one other player that cannot put in a ball into the box at a consistent level, that Lee Evans couldn't do their job on that corner. If you think about attacking corners, you normally have 1 or 2 members back. Normally they're your fullbacks. Are you telling me one of my 2 fullbacks can put a decent ball into the box at a consistent level, like a Leif Davis, that Lee Evans couldn't go and stand on the halfway line for that corner?
He's shown his value from corners as well. I know it's on the other side, but he scored his goal. He nearly scored another goal, and then had that cracking header in the first game against Bolton, all from corners.
You're almost wasting him.
Wasted. Why waste him taking his awful set pieces? Get him in the middle and get someone else out there.
Doesn't Chaplin take corners?
I've seen him. He doesn't do it on a consistent. I've seen him. I don't care who it is. It's been a bit like England and Harry Kane when Harry Kane was taking corners. What's he doing out there taking a corner? It's like he might be the best hitter of the ball, but it doesn't mean you need to have him taking corners. As you said, George, he's been very consistent, more consistent than anybody else in being a threat from a corner. But
that's more of a McKenna. Don't get me wrong. That's more of a McKenna criticism than an Evans criticism. Going back to the point. Nothing against Evans. Last couple of games, I think I don't know, he's not doing it to prove me wrong, but he's proving me wrong, which is great. I'm more than happy for that to carry on. McKenna has got us out of the corners.
He must be feeling good about his performances when he.
I bet he's just sat at home right now with a massive beaming smile.
He must be thinking even King Talk Shit can't be talking shit about me at the moment. So let's unblock.
I wasn't his biggest fan at all.
But Lee Evans.
Lee Evans. But the last couple of games, I think he really has played really well. So I might be eating my words there.
Well, we hope that you are. Cruncher says, McKenna will be ruthless. If you don't perform, there's someone to come and take your place. David, I've been a Town fan for over 40 years. I've never been to a game. Does that make me less a fan than someone who goes home and away goes? Absolutely not, David. No. Absolutely, categorically no. Certainly in 2022, when you can watch the game any multiple ways at any multiple different locations without leaving the country. Cruncher 76, harness, knee slides, needs talking about. Well, yes, he's still sliding, I do believe. What a knee slide.
Yes, that was, we make a lot of fuss when players go down onto their knees and go straight into their face, right? So that was, and I thought Ipswich, like on Twitter earlier, called it out perfectly, which is just marvel at it, because it was perfect.
Ashley Bell, Evans has been consistently good so far this season. I've been really impressed. Ipswich boy, why is Evans even talking about taking corners after scoring himself from a short corner? Mike D says Walton on corners. I know Walton's great, but getting back as quick as that, I'm not quite sure he'd manage. Crunch, we need Neil Thompson with the 90s. It's what you need. You need set piece in football where you can have anybody wheel them out for a corner and wheel them back off the pitch again. Some players will never ever retire.
Special teams.
Yes, special teams. AD Croucher, apart from the opening game, we haven't had a decent corner. What do they do on the training pitch? Ashley Bell, they're professional players. They should be able to all take a corner. Yeah, but they can't, can they? Let's be honest. Andy, we need a Jimmy Ledbetter who could put a ball on a sixpence from a corner kick. Cruncher, Vicky loves me, Gov. Well, that's up to you two. Score predictions, please, ladies and gentlemen. What are we saying? Vicky?
I'm going to go for 1-0.
Love it. Another 1-0 win. Hopefully not as nervy as at times as yesterday. George, your score prediction, please.
You know, I'd never go into a game happy with a draw, so I'm going 0-2 Town.
0-2 Town, 2-0 from AD, 2-0 from Stephen, 1-1 from the Cruncher, 2-0 from Rob Holmes. One more scores coming. Don't forget, we're back live again Friday night, 8:30 of your press conference reaction show. where I look at what McKenna has said in the press and I bring it to the contributors and they have their say on their opinion in their words in only the way we do on Talking Town. Ant still says Shrewsbury 0, Town 1. And he also said in the chat that he uses most of his annual leave on following Town. So just Ant still phenomenal. Anyone that uses their annual leave instead of sitting on a beach in Barbados, just you're amazing, quite frankly. Because I'd rather choose Kefalonia than Burton. But each to their own. Each to their own. Ashley, I chose Frankfurt last night. Ashley Bell, I say it again, 3-1 Town. It will happen one day. 2-3 says Andy Barrell. Love it. Jess says Bobby Pett was on the wing at my first Town game in 1999. We beat them 3-0. They had a 17-year-old Robbie Keane in their lineup. There you go. A little bit of history. And Chris says Freddie to score. Don't forget, we can carry the conversation on our Discord. If you're a YouTube or Kofa member, not one yet, become one today. And you'll get the link sent to you tonight. But until then, we're back Friday. The lovely No Filter Yorkshire V is still on the tequila. And this man, Mr. Nunn, the designer extraordinaire, we love with care. We'll see you all Friday.
You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you. A long blonde